I'm here with Prem Kumar, who's one of the top 30 authors from Think Week 2009. He wrote a very interesting paper on motivating and retaining Generation Y talent. Thanks for being here. It's a very interesting topic.
Thank you.
And so I'm a Gen X. I would love to know what some of the top pieces are about Generation Y, retaining Generation Y. What are some of those?
Yeah, so typically Generation Y is thought of as folks that were born in the late 70s to the mid 80s. Some of the kind of top things that I uncovered in my research that Generation Y needs in order to be successful and be retained is, first of all, feedback. I think we've grown up with certain cultural messaging, certain ways of learning that really incorporate feedback. So
when you talk about feedback, is this a verbal feedback? Is it email feedback? And what is the frequency of feedback? Is it daily, monthly? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so I guess I'll first start by saying the kind of feedback I'm talking about, feedback on performance. It can come via email, conversation. The median isn't that as important as the fact that it happens. The frequency obviously would depend on the person, but it's important to, I think, foster a culture where managers are used to that and maybe treating their Generation Y employees a little bit differently in terms of the amount of feedback they give them.
Interesting. And rewards and recognition, is that important to a Generation Y?
Yeah, so I feel like recognition and growth and is one of the big things that came out of my research. And recognition and growth and being a part of something are both things that I think are important to all employees. But I found that particularly if you look at the retention rates of Generation Y, that it's actually a make or break in whether they're happy and whether they stay at the company.
You also mentioned that Gen Y, they prefer smaller work spaces, if you will. Can you touch on that?
Well, I think one thing that has happened lately before the economy went down and might happen when the economy goes back up is there's a lot of top talent going to startups, going to Facebook, going to smaller companies. I think, so when I talked about recognition and growth and being a part of something, those are two things that are very easy to do in a small company. It's harder to do in a bigger company. So I think there's ways to kind of create that small feel within Microsoft through technology, through social media. We have a lot of stuff going on at Microsoft right now. 42 projects is one thing that is kind of making the company smaller.
So you have suggestions in your paper about things that we could do to create that smaller dynamic in a large enterprise.
Exactly.
And then you touched on reverse mentoring as a concept. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so reverse mentoring is a program that it's worked pretty well at companies like GE, Procter & Gamble. And it's kind of going on in pockets at Microsoft, but we don't have a formal program. I'm piloting a program with Ross Smith, who is a director of test. And we're trying to basically take the knowledge we already have within our companies that's housed within Generation Y's brains and impart that on the management and other generations. On
the Gen X and the baby boomers.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that we've had a shift in technology paradigms, right? And so we had tools available that have moved into the consumer lifestyle, and then social media available from the consumer that's now porting over into the enterprise. Can you share your thoughts on social media? Yeah,
definitely. And I think this is one kind of unique thing of Generation Y. In the past, a lot of the predominant communication tools, the phone is a good example, kind of started out for more of a productive use, maybe for the workplace or for getting things done. And then they kind of slowly adapted to more social uses. So text messaging is right now predominantly used for social purposes. With social media and some of the communication technologies that are present now, like Facebook and Twitter, a lot of those started for social uses and they're just now being used in the enterprise. So I think it's important to understand Gen Y's perspective and how that works.
And why did you leverage Think Week as a channel to share your concepts?
I've always really enjoyed reading Think Week papers. I think it's awesome how much that management has bought into it and the sponsorship the process gets. So I thought it was a great way to not just kind of tell people how I feel about this and what my research says, but get people thinking about it. There's a lot of exposure involved.
Thank you for writing a Think Week paper. Thank you for contributing an amazing paper. We encourage each of you to read more about how we can retain and motivate, inspire Generation Y talent. Thanks again, Prem Kumar, for your contribution to Think Week.